It's about a guy called Michael Britton who lives this extraordinary life where he's been in a terrible accident and either his wife or his son has died, and he doesn't know which, because he lives a life with his wife, he goes to sleep and he wakes up and he lives a life with his son. And in these two different lives he has two different partners, two different cases, two different therapists. And what's important to him is that he doesn't want to find out which is real, because this way he has a second chance at his family, both of whom he's buried. After the accident, my relationship with my partners is strained at work because I have insights through my dreams that allow me to solve the crimes, but I can't explain it to them because they think I was mad. I can't actually tell anybody at all what's going on for me because I'd be locked up and I'd be taken off the job. Because of my rather strange and unique situation, things come to me in dreams and I apply them in my police work, and I just can't explain them to my partners.
And 3, 2, 1, action!
I wear a green band when I'm with my son, Rex, and when I wake up and I'm wearing a red band, I know that it's the world where Hannah is alive. And as it gets more and more confusing and I get more and more stressed out, I rely more and more on visual clues. But there are times when I make mistakes. I'm in one world and I speak to the wrong partner, and I think I'm doing the wrong case at work. He seems to have instincts about the crime, but sometimes it seems like he's either going insane or he has some secret source of information he's not sharing. And for Vega, who is a younger detective than me, maybe he thinks there's something he should be learning from me. But it's difficult for him. He's meant to be reporting back to the captain whether or not I'm on track, if I'm behaving erratically, and I am. And for Bird, who is my long-term detective partner, who's known me for a long time, something has changed radically. And I now no longer tell him what I'm thinking, and I ask him to go down these strange avenues with me that's sometimes very dangerous. But they seem to keep working out. I can't imagine how frustrating it is for them. Well, I had two therapists, one in each world that I'm mandated to go to by the police force because I'm behaving weirdly at work, because when I came back from the accident I was behaving erratically, and because I may be a liability. There's also a bigger mystery surrounding what happened the night of the accident, whether it really was an accident, and whether I'm being sent to these people deliberately to try and see how much I remember. But they're very different from each other. Dr. Lee, as played by BD Wong, is far more clinical. He's quite aggressive with me. He thinks it's important that I realize that the other world is a dream, and I acknowledge that. He thinks it's very unhealthy and dangerous for my mental health if I don't engage with reality. In the other world, Dr. Evans, that Cherry Jones plays, is far more supportive. She doesn't mind. She doesn't even mind me thinking she might be a figment of my imagination. She thinks it's healthy as long as I slowly come to my own realizations. And so they're very, very different, but they both have my best interests at heart, and of course they're the only people that I tell some version of the truth to. I'm living in a house with a woman who's lost her son, and we're having to reinvent our marriage from scratch. You know, she had a kid when she was young and she didn't get a chance to go to college or any of those things, and it would be a strain on a normal marriage, but a marriage where suddenly a child disappears is tough. And in the other world, I'm dealing with a teenage boy. I think it's hard enough to raise teenagers as it is, but to be a cop's son, to have lost your mother, who's the one you went to tell the truth to, makes it a very stressful household, and hopefully very dramatic. As unique as Britton's situation is, when you watch this show, you instantly get into the what-if territory, and that's the heart of all great storytelling. It's the heart of Kyle's writing. What if this happened to you? How would you handle it? And I think you never let go of that. The writers are very smart, all of them. And this idea, this premise has allowed them to explore dreams and explore how we interact with our wives and our bosses and our colleagues and our children, and allow us to look at our world through fresh eyes. And also dream up very dramatic scenarios. We can go insane on our stories because it may be a dream, but then it might be real too. So they're having a lot of fun, the writers, and I hope the audience will have fun watching me have an absolute nightmare. I'm tortured in every scene. You know, they say there's only 7 stories in the world, but it's how you tell them. And they're telling these things surprisingly and entertainingly and beautifully. And hopefully it's a cop show that has crimes to be solved in a way that's very emotional and very personal always. There's never a crime comes along that isn't a reflection of something going on in my life, something going on with either my wife or my son or myself. And that makes that thing an awful lot more human. The source of all great drama is two things to me. One, to completely grip you when you're watching it, so the what if gets its hooks into you. And then when it's finished, for you to still think about that situation, think about, for it to stay alive after the credits. And for me, this idea just took a hold of me like a disease. And we're months in now, and I still find every day fascinating. I go to work and I think, what am I going to do here? What would I do if this happened to me? It's never got boring writing it or filming it, and hopefully it won't be boring to watch. Well, as the series progresses and as we shoot more and more, I, as me as the actor, and Britain as the character, I get more and more comfortable with the idea that I live in these two worlds, because we can all normalize any situation, and it gets more and more threatening to me, the idea of losing them. Because when it was fresh, the whole thing was kind of alive and electric, and right now, this is my reality. I live in these two worlds, and I really don't want anything to challenge it, and it's helping me. And we can't forget the procedural element of the show. I mean, this is also a procedural cop show, and we have fabulous crimes. Fabulous in that they're interesting and they're solved in interesting and unusual ways. And most of that comes from what I'm thinking and feeling and dreaming, which is not something I've ever seen before. I don't want to know which one is real, because I'm not stupid and I'm not insane either. I know that either my son or my wife is dead, but currently my experience is that they're both alive. I wish I could have them alive together, but having them alive apart is the best I can do. And the last thing I want is one of those things to disappear. Well, look, obviously I'm English, so first of all I had to find where the guy came from. He came from New Jersey, he moved 20-something years ago. He was a sailor, he went to the first Gulf. I mean, I have a whole backstory for him, so I have an accent for him. And then I went and spent time with some very generous homicide detectives in Los Angeles who allowed me to go ride along with them, allowed to go on some interviews with them. And you know, when you go and hang out with the real guys, first of all, you end up full of admiration, you know, only because they live far more dangerous lives than you would imagine. They're going to places, every time they walk up to a building they could be shot, every time they walk up to a car they could be shot. So there's a level of high tension in the air, which makes them, oddly enough, very funny. And then other procedural details that I've never seen on TV before, I'm very keen to make accurate. So, for instance, they always have a big pad, they write everything down. If you're a cop, you write everything down, and your partner writes everything down, because right from the beginning, these notes will be used in court. And anything you do as a police officer is to lead to a conviction. So you've got to write everything down, you've got to remember this will be read out, and your notes will be dealt with. Nothing's done on memory. And the way they handle people, how polite and courteous they are with people that I personally would have thought of as not deserving of that much respect, was a surprise to me. And how logical they are, how much time they spend discussing and thinking through everything with each other. And one of the odd things about them is how they're the kind of parents. One of the surprising things was the kind of parents they are. I imagine a lot of absence. They're away, they're working, they're overtime. That's not true, actually. The cops that I spent time with were amazingly controlling parents. If you're the child of a police officer, they will want to know where you are at all times, who you're hanging out with. They'll check out their parents. They don't want you to go to bad areas. They want you home earlier. You'll be exposed far too early to knowledge of what horrors await you in the street. And so the common complaint of children and wives of police officers is that they just feel swamped and overwhelmed by it. So that's something I brought back to the writer's room and we're trying to incorporate. And really, you know, spending a night or two with the police is a real eye-opener. And we've all tried to do it, and we have a fantastic advisor on the set who was advisor on The Shield for a long time. And at every juncture he says, well, that wouldn't happen, but this would happen. And it's almost always true that the truth is more interesting than things we dream up. And for me, when I switch on the television, I like to be transported to a different world. So we're not making a documentary about the police, but I think if we have the ring of authenticity about us, then A, we won't look like other cop shows, and B, the audience will be intrigued, just like I was when I saw it.